Jodi Burnett and Kathleen Donnelly. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us. This is so much fun.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Now, Jodi, I know Jodi because we met at the 20 Books Vegas conference back in November of last year. And she's a very successful author, and she was talking about her goals for the next year. And she said, I want to start getting a presence on podcasts. And I'm like, well, funny you mentioned that. I have one of those. So you were on podcast number 45 back in December 12th. You were on, Jodi.
That's right. My very first podcast. I
And
was scared to death, but you held my hand and it was fun. We had a great time.
You did great. And actually, that's consistently in my top 10 out of 85 podcasts. You're like in the top 10 of the most downloaded.
You're kidding. That's fantastic.
Nope. Yeah.
I didn't know. Wow.
You betcha. And Kathleen, I know you because you are one of my patrons, which I really appreciate. And one of the benefits of that is we chat once a month for about a half an hour, but sometimes we run over and you can pick my brain about policey stuff.
Yes, it's been fantastic. You've helped me so much with making my books accurate and getting the police work correct. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate anybody supporting that. That's awesome. So I was doing my due diligence for the episode, and I always like to check the author's websites. And I got to tell you, you guys rock it. You know, I looked at both of your websites. They have so much eye appeal, and, you know, you want to keep looking at it. Yeah. I think I talked about this with you, Jodi, last time. You did a lot of the designing on your own, right? If I remembering correctly?
No, on my new website that I have now, I actually hired someone to help me out with that.
Oh, okay.
In January. So it might be a little newer from what you saw before.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you. She did a great job. It's exciting.
How about you, Kathleen?
I met an awesome web designer named Maddie James, and she lives here in Colorado, but she designs, I don't even know how many authors that's her main job is author websites, and she's wonderful to work with. And I feel really lucky to have found her because she put it together beautifully.
Yeah, you know what? Both of you guys. Yeah, there's some similarities to both of yours, and it's just they're extremely professional. They're just, like I said before, they're super eye appealing, and they want, as somebody just like browsing around or whatever, you stop and you want to keep looking, which is what you want, you know, if you're when you set one of those up. So good job for both you guys. It's awesome.
Thank you.
One more thing too, doing my due diligence, book covers. Both of you guys rock the book covers. You know, Kathleen, you have one book out and you have a second book that's on its way, correct?
That's correct. So the second book will be out next summer, and the first book, Chasing Justice, came out in May.
Okay. Yay. And did your publisher do the cover, or did you have much input on that?
They did. They actually, what I love about my publisher, it's Carina Press, who's with Harlequin, and they do they call it an art fact sheet, and you can fill out all this information. So I felt like I had a lot of input in the cover, and that I could give them the information on my dog is a Malinois, so don't put like a different breed on there. And
so no chihuahuas.
No chihuahuas. Yeah. No little, yeah. So, and what my characters looked like and the settings in Colorado. And I actually sent them pictures of the Colorado forest that I envisioned it. And they did a beautiful job putting it together.
Yeah, it's really, they rock that. And Jodi, I got to tell you, I absolutely love your covers too. Who does your covers?
Thank you. A guy named Steven Novak does my covers, and he's outstanding. And he's just super responsive to anything that I have, any ideas I have, but I sort of give him this outline of what I'm thinking, and then he comes up almost every time on the first go. It's a yes. Like it's just, he's just fantastic. Yeah.
Wow.
And he makes sure it's in brand and everything, which is, how they're so similar.
Yeah. And they should be, it's amazing to me. People will ask, it's like, why am I not selling books? And some of the basic stuff, they don't really hit really well. It's like, okay, when I look at both of your covers for your books, I know what I'm getting. There's no big mystery here. Well, there is probably a mystery going on, but there might be a mystery, but there's not a mystery to me as a reader taking a peek at that. And it's like, oh, okay. And they're very eye appealing. And they're very like modern looking. They match, what's popular right now. And yeah, it just, again, both of you guys knock it out of the park, I tell you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Jodi, how many books do you have published now? What are you up to?
As of September 1st, I have 12 out.
Wow.
So yeah, Bloodline just came out, book 5.
And that is what, 2.5 years of publishing?
22. Yes. I had to do the math.
Yes. Wow.
2.5 years. Yeah.
You are a
I do
machine.
about 3 books a year.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're my hero, Jodi.
Oh.
she is a machine, I tell you.
I just have an overactive imagination that won't be still.
All right, Jodi, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself if people don't know who you are and why you started writing?
Okay, sure. Well, I know on the podcast earlier, I mentioned this that we did last December about how I started writing because my kids, I have 4 kids, and they were growing up and leaving home, and I didn't really know who I was if I wasn't mom. And so I started, whining about that to my husband who, he doesn't take whining very well. So he suggested that maybe I write a book about all this nonsense I'm telling him about. And I joke that he probably meant, 7 easy steps to stop bothering your husband with your empty nest syndrome. But actually I tease about him, but he has been my greatest support and my greatest encourager. And so I wrote a book. It was actually fiction. And in the process of writing it, I fell in love with writing. I love to be able to put my imagination and my stories that run around in my head on paper. And it's so exciting to share them with people who enjoy them and talk about the characters like they're real people. And it's like grown up make-believe. So, but a little bit more about me is I am a military wife. My husband was in the Marine Corps and retired from the Marines just recently. He's a pilot, and we had a great life in the Marines. I wish we could kind of live that over again. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. Now, Kathleen.
Sure. I grew up in Colorado, and I was really lucky in that my parents had a small piece of property where we had chickens and horses and dogs and turkeys. And I did 4-H and all that. And I love the animals. So I think I was always destined to do something with animals. And then my parents were also really good about reading to us and encouraging just stories. And I used to bug my mom when I couldn't fall asleep at night. She finally said, why don't you just make up some stories in your head while you try to fall asleep? So from a little kid on, I started doing that. And I did go to school and I got a journalism degree, but I found journalism wasn't really my passion. There's a lot to it I didn't like about it, especially the getting in people's face part to get a good story. So when I got out of college, I didn't get a job in journalism. I went into horse training because, that's probably a natural segue there.
Oh, yeah, I can see it. Yes. There's some courses, I'm sure, in college, horse 101 or whatever you had to take.
Yeah, exactly. So I started training horses. And then a friend of mine had a drug dog business. And she said, we need another handler. And I need someone who can read an animal's body language. Would you be interested? So I said, sure. And I went through certification with that, and I've been working with Sherlock Hounds since 2005. And I think around 2008, I thought I really want to write again, but I don't know what. So I started dabbling in fiction, and all of a sudden I found myself, I love the mystery, suspense, thriller, all those. So I kind of wrote each one of those, and now I have Chasing Justice out. So that's how that all came about. Yeah.
That's awesome. Jodi has a horse background too. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Jodi?
Yeah, I had a business for a while working with at-risk teens in a business called Horses Healing Hearts. And I have horses. Kathleen and I have talked about that. We have that in common. And just working with kids, taking them out of traditional office therapy, out into the arena, and with their therapist, kind of organizing situations that help them learn how they deal with their life, and then maybe practicing other skills, that maybe they can improve, communication or dealing with frustration, things like that. And you can do it with the horses. And just like Kathleen's saying, it's all about reading the body language of the animal. They can really help you see what's going on with the kids, primarily horses, because they're prey animals. And so their whole purpose is to survive, and they survive by reading your body language. They can tell you what's going on with a kid, even though a kid might be presenting this tough guy attitude and might be intimidating to me. It's not, that isn't intimidating to the horse, but maybe what's going on, they can really key in on what's really going on. And it's so helpful in a therapy situation.
Wow, I never knew that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is a question I usually ask towards the end of an interview, but I'm going to do it towards the beginning now. You kind of have my curiosity peak. Both of you guys are readers. What do you guys read?
Oh gosh, I read a lot of different. I just finished a Lisa Jackson book. I'm reading Patricia Stolte's latest book, and she's also a local Colorado author. I love everything from David Baldacci to, I just read it. Lisa Gardner. I read a wide variety of
Now,
books.
do you read paperbacks, ebooks, audiobooks? How do you consume yours?
Usually it's either ebook or paperback. Sorry.
Okay. How about you, Jodi?
Well, I love spy novels. They're my favorite. And which is, like, I love the Cold War spy stuff, which is, ancient nowadays, but I love to read Brad Thor,
okay.
Mark Cameron.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Well, let's see, Vince Flynn, love Vince Flynn. He's passed away, but now has someone writing under his name. Cut my teeth on Robert Ludlum, the vintage Robert Ludlum stuff. And I love all of that kind of stuff, but I also read all over the map. Just got done reading a Dugoni book, which was really fantastic, called My Sister's Grave. And
if you like
the same all over the place. Yeah.
If you like the Cold War stuff, you might like some old Ian Fleming. I love Ian Fleming.
I love Ian Fleming too.
Yeah. So how do you consume your books? Paperback?
All of the above. So I love a real book, but I read a lot on my Kindle, of course, because it's just so convenient. I travel a lot, so it's nice to carry. But I also love audio. I like to listen to audio, both books and podcasts. I'm a total podcast junkie. When I'm out walking or just doing household chores, anything, I love to listen. So I can't get enough.
Okay. Now, Jodi, you're a successful indie author. Now, did you start out as self-publishing, or how did that happen?
I did query my first book, which is Run for the Hills. And I queried that for, a little over half a year. I had some interest, some, asks for full reads and so forth, but I'm not very patient. And I also like to be in control of my own world. And so I heard about indie publishing and I started dabbling in that, and it just went really well for me. So I like the idea of being able to control every aspect of it, and that's win or lose. So if I fail, the only person I can blame is me as well. So, but I like being able to have full, decision-making capability for cover, and everything I do, everything I have in there is something that I want. And so I really like that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you advantages and disadvantages, but you just kind of touted the advantages. What do you think some of the disadvantages are, if there are any?
Well, I think the disadvantages are easy enough to overcome, but I think it's just the educational piece, not knowing what you're doing, how to do it, but the indie industry is so helpful. The people in that industry are so willing to help you. There's so many courses and people who will just answer your questions if you just, shout out at them at, in social media or whatever. Everybody's so willing to help each other along. And I think that's another part that is so wonderful about it, is the indie community, for sure.
Yeah. I think it depends on the person and their situation, and the hybrid model, I think we're going to see a lot more of, where you have people who are quote traditionally published, but they're also doing indie stuff, and traditional publishers kind of acting like indie publishers. It's changing. Now, Kathleen, you are traditionally published. Why, and how about some advantages, disadvantages, that kind of thing?
Sure. I don't have a very good answer to that, other than it was just my gut feeling that I wanted to try traditional first. And in 2020, when I was not working because of COVID, I really sat down, finished up this manuscript, queried it out. I queried it in May, and by July, my agent wanted to rep the book, and it all just kept going. And then by, I think, April of the next year of 21, we had an offer for it. So it just went going. And I love the team. I love having an agent I can turn to and say, I don't know what to do with this. And Karina as a publisher has been fantastic. They're really easy to communicate with. They don't mind a lot of questions. So I feel like I've had a really positive experience. That being said, I've also heard of traditionally published authors who haven't had as positive an experience. So I continue to learn as much as I can about both sides, just because I think you need to be flexible, or the hybrid model, or whatever. But Karina's been fantastic, and I love working with them. And my agent, Ella Marie, has been fantastic, and I love working with her. So as long as it's been a great experience.
Yeah, you're with a legit publishing house. That's a part of the top 5 or.
Yeah, they're under Harlequin, and who's under HarperCollins. So I guess that's part of the big houses.
Yeah, the biggies. But what I hate to see is you have authors that are struggling and they really want, to make it and be successful. And there's a lot of predatory, quote unquote publishers out there. It's like, yeah, give me $5,000 and I'll make you a star, and it's like, no, I just hate hearing those stories. But, not everybody is as lucky to, things happen quickly for you, Kathleen, which is great.
They did. I feel very lucky. It just seemed like everything just fell into place. So that was it. Yeah, I feel very lucky.
Awesome. All right. Okay, let's talk about dogs. More specifically, why authors put them into their stories. It just seems like, it's an instant attraction. Kathleen, what do you think? Why do you think they're so, it's like a magnet sometimes, for readers? Boom, there's a dog in a story, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, my ears perk up. Why do you think that is?
Well, for one, they're just amazing creatures. I mean, I'm so lucky. The 3 I work, they go out every day and they work so hard and they want to do their job well. And I think it's fascinating how these dogs can help us just solve everyday mysteries. I go into schools, that's my main job. And if they say, well, we think we have something in a locker in this school, but we have 500 lockers, the dogs can go through and see if there's something there in a lot less time than if as humans went through and opened up every single locker.
Right.
So I think there's sort of a fascination with how they can help us and how they enjoy helping us. I mean, there's other creatures with great noses, but we're not going to take them into schools or police it. They don't, like cats, they're not going to want to help us out. So sorry to all the cat lovers out there, but I don't see a future for drug sniffing cats. So, so I think that's the fascination with dogs. They enjoy helping their human counterparts. And then when you put them in a story, it's fun to see how we can use them to help solve a mystery.
Now, when your book and the one that you're right, your first book obviously is K-9 centric. A K-9 is a big part of the story. And is your second book, is it also going to have a K-9?
It is. So actually, I'm under contract for book 2 and 3, and it's all part of the National Forest K-9 series.
Okay.
And same characters, same K-9. And so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. Now, obviously, a lot about K-9s because you work with them every day, like in an investigatory role. Now, what kind of extra research did you have to do for this, or did you?
No, I did a lot of research because I work single purpose dogs. So meaning that they do one job, which is find drugs. And that the dual purpose dogs used with law enforcement do multiple jobs, tracking, apprehension, all that stuff. I hadn't worked a dual purpose dog. I'm not a police officer, as you know, from all the questions I've asked you. So I tried to do a lot of research on the law enforcement side of it and how a dual purpose dog works. And it's been a ton of fun to learn about it. I've really enjoyed learning more about it.
Now, how are you learning about them? Like, are you reaching out to police officers, or what are you, Google, or how are you doing it?
I'm looking at our trainers. We have 2 trainers with our company that we work with, and they have a law enforcement background. They've worked a lot of different dogs, actually beyond the police dogs. They've worked search and rescue and HRD, the human remains detection dogs, and just a lot of background. So I've been able to reach out to them for most of my questions.
Oh, okay.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I did a Citizens Academy, and there was a handler there who came and did a demo and
nice.
Asked him a lot of questions.
Sure.
And yeah. So
awesome.
It's been great.
How about you, Jodi? Why do you think people are so fascinated with dogs and their stories? Why do you have them in your stories?
I think animals in general, but dogs specifically, because people really connect. They resonate with the connection, the human animal connection. So whether or not it's mystery or just a fun story, animals in stories are great. As far as I go with the crime, I just love mystery thriller kinds of reads. And so I like to write it. I'm fascinated by police dogs, and the research I've done is a lot. I just interview any canine police officer I can get my greedy little hands on. So
I thought you were going to say pause on, but okay.
You should have.
Yeah.
I just recently had the opportunity to talk to our local sheriff here in Elbert County in Colorado, and he has 20 years canine experience down in Phoenix.
Oh.
And then he retired and came up and ran for sheriff here. And so he's developing a canine program here in our little county. It's a big county, but it's rural. So
yeah,
there's not a lot of people, but they have only one dog right now, but it's pretty exciting. And he had so much information and so many things to talk about. It was really, really, really great. Informed a lot of my most recent book.
Nice. Now, so as far as your research, trying to get things right about the K-9s, you just reached out to different K-9 handlers, or how did that work?
Yes, a nearby city, Castle Rock, has a fantastic K-9 unit. And those guys over there, it was during the COVID year, so it was really nice. They let us come in, Chris and I, my husband, Chris, and I went over there and interviewed them. They sat with us for 2 hours, just answering any kind of question we could come up with. And they were fantastic. Also a guy who works over in Greenwood Village, which is nearby, sort of nearby to me. And like I said, our local sheriff. I've done 2 citizens academies, both with canine aspects that have been just really helpful. Yeah. And I think that, people that do this work are excited to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
And want us as writers to get it right, because when it's not right, it's not fun for them. And they do an incredible work. These dogs are amazing. They're so smart. And I also have a Malinois in my current series, and in most of the dogs in my last series were Malinois also, because they're just the most incredible dog I've ever seen. They're fantastic. Whether or not they'd make a good household pet is debatable. I know that a lot of people have them and they love them, but they are high energy dogs, and they need to work. Right. So if you're capable of doing that with your dog, great. My dog's lazy and loves just being petted and loved on and spoiled. So I couldn't have one, but they're amazing. Yeah,
you bet. So I was thinking about this question when I was like getting ready for the show, and I want to see what your guys' opinion is. I think people want dogs and stories because a lot of books or movies or whatever, or even a podcast, you don't always remember all the content, but you remember how it made you feel.
True.
And for me, any kind of story with a dog in it, it just touches a part of me that, nothing else can, and I guess it's because I've been raised with dogs since I was a little kid, and they've always been a part of my life. So what do you guys think about that?
I agree. I totally agree.
Me too.
Yeah.
And as a writer, I think you could really use that, like if you want to build some tension and suspense, it's like put the dog in danger,
Mhm.
you know, in your
Absolutely.
story.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
You do have to be careful there, though. You have to be careful. Readers do not appreciate you hurting the dog at all. And sometimes the dog has to get hurt, but he must be able to get better. You can't,
Yeah.
there's no killing dogs. You can't do that. And they don't want to, honestly, but
No.
you know, I have had in my FBI series, one of my handlers had a dog in the army. So he had his military dog was killed. And then the story starts after that, but it starts with him. He's still grappling with the loss of his dog and trying to learn to work with a new dog. And that's difficult for him. And that's part of the challenge. And there's a lot of emotion wrapped around that dog in that book. But
that's interesting, Jodi, because my character is the same way. She lost her dog in Afghanistan, which I didn't realize that because I haven't read the series you were talking about there. I read your other series, but
thanks.
And I got really nervous. I thought, are people going to be upset? Because even though it's not the main story, she lost her dog. She thinks it's due to handler error, and she's dealing with that guilt and has sworn off ever working dogs again. Mm-hmm. And I thought, boy, I wonder if I'm going to get hate mail just from having that little story piece. But I'm with you. You would never kill a dog in a book.
Yeah.
That would not go over well.
No.
With me either. I don't want to do it.
Right.
Either.
I wouldn't want to anyway.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of my readers will comment. So my dogs, you know, it's not like we're writing dogs that have a point of view or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Some people do, but I know Kathleen and my books are not like that. But still the dog's personality comes through. And I think a lot of people really enjoy getting to know the dog just as much as they do your human characters.
Right. Now, for both of you, and this is a great segue, what if I want to write a story and it's got a dog as like either a main character or like a side character or whatever, what are some best practices or tropes that you think that really react well with the reader?
With the reader. That's a good question. I think one, you have to think about what job the dog is doing and then make sure you pick a breed that matches that job. Like you said, there's not a Chihuahua on the cover. But if I was writing a cozy mystery and, you know, it was a gal who knits and then she and her dog are solving a case, it could be a Chihuahua on the cover.
Could even be a cat in that case.
It could be. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
A lot of different animals. So I think one thing just for the reader to engage is just to make sure the dog matches the job you have in the book. What are your thoughts, Jodi?
It's an interesting question. I was thinking about people who do write with animals as the main character. And so the dog or a cat or whoever may have a point of view and maybe has a voice. And there's certainly that genre too. I think that you just want to make sure that it's very clear up front if that's what you're doing.
You know, I think like what you were saying before is, you know, don't kill the dog.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, nobody wants to see, maybe the dog can get scuffed up a little bit or whatever and recover, obviously, but you don't want to hurt a dog badly or
for sure. You'd be better off killing off your main character than you would a dog.
Yeah. You can kill as many humans as you want.
Oh yeah.
But not the dog.
Absolutely.
And I think people enjoy seeing the dog in action. So whatever job you've chosen for that dog to do, they like to see the dog in action and see how it's worked or even how the training goes. And I even tried to add into my book what it's like to live with a high energy working dog. Yeah. Who's taught to, I mean, we encourage our dogs to jump up on things and get up on, because, you know, they have to go check. So they have very different house rules from a pet, so to speak.
Oh, sure.
And so I think it's fun to put some of that in a book. So if someone wanted to write a canine book, just really learning all the ins and outs of even just living with the dog can be interesting for the reader.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. I like that. Now, Kathleen, you are a co-owner of a dog business, Sherlock Hounds. I love that name, Sherlock Hounds. That's awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Sherlock Hounds, I wish I could take credit for the title as a mystery writer, but that goes to my business partner. It was a company that started in 1999, actually. We've been around for quite a while. And I became involved in 2005. But the main purpose of the company is we are really lucky to be grant funded. So we go into schools and help deter the presence of drugs, alcohol, and gunpowder. And the gunpowder came about because when it started in 99, it was right after Columbine.
Okay.
So we felt like we could help schools stay safer. So we work schools in northern Colorado. I tell the kids we go in on a regular random basis because as you can imagine, they want to know when we're coming.
I'm sure they do.
Yes. And we also work at a drug and alcohol rehab center in Colorado. But other than that, it's just schools, and I really enjoy it. I tell the kids that 98% of them every day are making great choices. We're there for a small percentage. And then unlike other working dogs, our dogs are allowed to be petted. So the kids can pet them during passing period or whatever. It's as long as the dogs aren't working, they can pet them.
Okay. What kind of dogs do you use?
I have labs right now.
Okay.
But the best drug dog I ever had, you'll love this since we were just talking about Chihuahuas, but is a Russell Terrier named Sparky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he is 15 pounds. He's retired, and he was an amazing drug dog. He would walk in at school with the swagger of a Malinois or a Shepherd. And he would just be like, oh, that person over there, they have something. I'm going to their backpack. And
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the kids, after a while, he got a reputation. I would have principals call and say, can you come, check our school today? And can you bring Sparky?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So he was a great drug dog. I also worked a fox terrier for a while. He was a little, he could be difficult to work. He was a little bit more opinionated, a little more typical terrier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do these dogs go home with you, or?
They do. They all live with me.
So how many dogs do you have at home?
I have 4 right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I have the 3 labs who are working and Sparky who's retired.
Okay. Now, as far as training goes, could you kind of give us a picture of what that looks like for these dogs?
Sure. So we play train our dogs. So that means that they work for their toy. They have a really high retrieve drive. We've trained with a couple different trainers. They're both excellent. Mackie Kelly in Oklahoma, who trains law enforcement dogs as well. And Lainey DeLong, who used to be in Colorado, but she moved. We miss her. But she's the head trainer now at K2 Solutions. And so we play train the dogs. We teach them to find basically marijuana, heroin, meth, cocaine, ecstasy, and then the alcohol and gunpowder. And so they just think that I've gone into a school ahead of time and hidden their toy, and it's their job to go in there and find it.
So you go into a school and the principal or whoever the administrator is says, okay, here's a line of lockers. I want you to, check on that. What is the clue? What happens when the dog hits on something suspicious?
Sure. So I have 2 passive alert dogs, and that means that if they smell an odor they're trying to find, they're going to sit and then stare at whatever they're, whether it's a locker or a backpack. And I have one, my oldest dog is an active alert, which means she uses her paws to scratch. And that's why we got away from it. Yeah, we got away from it because Jodi just made a face and was like, oh yeah, we have left many a scratch.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I keep her nails trimmed down and dremeled as much as I can. But so that's why we went to the passive alerts. But she'll take her front paws and scratch at whatever.
Okay.
Kathleen, I have a quick question, if you don't mind, Patrick.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned that you're training your dogs to search out marijuana. Is that still true in Colorado where it's legal? I know police dogs have to not smell marijuana anymore.
Right. So because we're a private company and because we work on school grounds where it's not legal, we can go ahead and still teach them to find it. But you're right. Right. You're right. Normal police departments had to get rid of dogs or just not use them in that capacity, unfortunately. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would untrain a dog.
You can't.
Yeah, that would be next to impossible. But I don't know what the specific laws are in Colorado as far as marijuana, but I would think if somebody had a couple of bales in the trunk of their car, that would not be legal. Correct?
It wouldn't. Well, Yes and no. I mean, it's interesting, Patrick. There was a case, and now I'm gonna forget. I'll have to research it and send you some info where
Yeah.
they pulled someone over. The dog was still trying to find marijuana, ran the vehicle. I think it was State Patrol.
Mhm.
And dog alerts, they find methamphetamine, and I think they found marijuana as well.
Yeah.
And the case actually got thrown out because of the marijuana.
Oh, okay.
And I can't remember. I don't want to get into all the legals ins and outs because I
Right.
don't even know. But
Yeah.
it did go to the appeals court and it got thrown out. So
Wow.
yeah.
Look at that. So, you said it's more like play. You're not giving them treats when they hit
No.
on something. It isn't food, guided. It's, can you give us like an idea? It's like, okay, your dog hits on a locker for something, like what's its reward?
So it's literally just a ball.
Like a
with
tennis
a
ball?
rope on it. We don't use tennis balls because we're in the schools and tennis balls have their own odors. And so we don't want to have them alerting on the tennis players because of the
yeah,
balls.
I guess so that's true. Yeah. I didn't think of that. Okay.
Yeah. And actually there was a scenario with that once where we busted a pretty high ranking tennis player in the state because she had marijuana in her bag. And when the dogs first alerted, the school resource officer with me said, oh, there might be tennis balls. And I said, no, let's check. And sure enough, we found some marijuana in there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we don't use the tennis balls. They're like the Kong squeaky balls. On Amazon, they destroy them really quick. So I just buy again on Amazon.
Sure.
It's the easiest.
One click shopping.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's their reward. Different agencies do different things. I've heard like ATF, I've heard their dogs are food trained. And so but for us, we go with the retrieve drive because that is just a big motivator that they get to play. And that's what motivates them.
Yeah. I had a friend that was a K-9 handler and she would come into the district station a lot with Kenny, her dog. And the reward was, it was a towel that was duct taped. And she'd just play tug of war with him and like throw it and he'd go fetch it and just literally a towel. And he just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, well, that's pretty simple and inexpensive, I guess.
Yeah. It's whatever your dog loves. I mean, sometimes I'll experiment. Right now, all my labs love the same toy, so that makes it easy. But I've had some that they liked, was it like a fire hose kind of toy? Like something like that. Yeah, I mean, they're all a little different on what they like.
All right, let's sidestep here to conventions for writers. Jodi, what are some of the cons that you've been to lately, and what have you gotten out of them that you think was worthwhile?
This year in June, I went to MurderCon, or sort of the other name for it is the Writers Law Enforcement Academy.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic. That was up in Green Bay, and it was just really great. We spent the time with the police academy up there, and we learned so many things. Well, I talked to you on the phone a lot while I was up there because you were neighbors, but it was just really tremendous. They were just so professional and taught us so many different things. And of course, they had a K-9 aspect as well. And also they had the keynote speakers one was the reporter who broke the Jeffrey Dahmer case. So she spoke about that. And
Annie Schwartz.
Yeah.
I'm a friend of hers.
Oh, really?
Annie.
She's a great speaker.
She's awesome. I love Annie. She was on the podcast.
Oh, good.
When they found all the remains in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment when they arrested him, one of the arresting officers called her and says, Annie, you got to get down here.
Yeah.
And it was like, midnight or something like that. So she crawled out of bed, went there, and she said, you have all these street hardened cops just standing there with their mouths open, like,
right.
Okay.
Here she is in her early 20s. I can't even imagine. Gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, but love Annie. She's awesome. She's got a real good book out regarding that too. And it's going to a Netflix series.
Oh, very cool. Wow.
Yeah, you bet.
Chilling. But anyway, so that was really, really great as far as writing and learning law enforcement and some of those sort of small pieces that you put in your book. One of my favorite things was learning how to clear a room and why cops clear the room the way they do. And you see it, I've seen it on TV and where they line up, maybe it's a SWAT team and they line up, back, just in a line, and then it's very choreographed. And I thought, well, that's cool. But then to learn how to do that and why, and it was just wonderful, really, really fascinating. So that was a lot of fun. I missed BowkerCon with Kathleen, so I was sad about that. That was just, gosh, that was just last week, wasn't it, Kathleen?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was on grandbaby duty, so
Okay, gotcha.
it was a good thing to do instead. But
Yeah,
still, I was sad not to be there. And then I'm getting ready to go to NINC, which is next week, and that's so fantastic for it's upper level learning as far as the business of writing and that kind of thing. It's really fantastic, and also great networking. And then 20 books, which is where I met you, Patrick. And
yes,
I love that. When I was first starting out, it was learning from a fire hose. There was so much to learn, and it was incredible. If you want to learn it, it is there. However, now that I'm a little further along, what I love most about that conference is the networking piece and getting to meet people, and just it's fantastic.
How
So
about
that's
you,
what
Kathleen?
I've done in last year.
Cool. How about you, Kathleen?
Yeah, I just recently went to two. One was VoucherCon that Jodi was talking about, and we missed you on the WUFTA panel, Jodi.
I know. I wish I
I
saw the pictures. I was so sad. That looked like
know.
so much fun.
It was. It's a more of a fan conference. It's a really interesting conference. There were 1,300 people there, and most of them are, I mean, there's the authors, but there's fans, there's librarians, book reviewers. They're all just looking for, I did a speed dating session with a friend of ours, Margaret Mitsushima, who also writes a wonderful Timber Creek K-9 series. So she and I did the speed dating together, where you go to a table of about 8 people. You tell them about your books. You each have 2 minutes, and then you move to the next table. So I think and a lot of the people we pitched to were librarians just looking for books to put in their library, which was fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then it's a lot of fun. And then the other conference I went to was Killer Nashville in August, which it doesn't matter if you publish traditionally or self-publish. I highly recommend that conference. It's a great conference. Clay Stafford does a great job of helping to promote authors, and there's panels for people learning self-publishing. There's panels for traditional. There's panels with, he would love to have you come, Patrick, because there's panels with police officers.
Oh, absolutely.
And, it's just a wonderful conference, and you sort of feel like they're a family. We were talking about that. It's a small enough conference that you go and you feel like you just meet people that you can't wait to see again. So some of my best friendships have been formed at that conference. So I went in August and really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Now, Kathleen, you're a full-time business owner. You have a full-time job. When and how do you find the time to write?
So I usually get up early. I usually get up about 4 to 4:30 because I find I have to get my writing. Yeah, it is early.
Yeah.
Coffee is good.
Yeah. Okay.
Really good.
Be caffeinated. Yes.
Yes. You can tell my writing where I was caffeinated and where I But I get up early and I try to get as much done as I can, because by the time you go work the dogs and do stuff with the horses and this and that, by the evening, I'm just zonked.
Now,
that being said,
do you have certain word count goals? Like, okay, I want to hit 500 words a day, or like X amount per month or week. How does that look?
Yeah, I like to try to hit about 1,000 a day if I can. That's a good number, but 500 to 1,000. When I was under deadline, I wrote longer, and I actually had I had one day where I hit, I think it was 10,000, which I'd never done before. I mean, that was really a whole day of writing.
Oh yeah.
It just was flowing, and I just kept at it, but that's not normal. That was a atypical day.
Yeah. Now, do you type in any special like software like Scrivener, or do you just use Word, or how does that look?
I started using a program called Dabble. It works really well. I did a nano, I think it was in 2019, and hit my 50K mark, and they were promoting all these different programs like Scrivener and some of those. And they said, here's 50% off this new program. And I thought, oh, I'll try it. And I like it. It works. It's not, if you like Scrivener or something like that, I don't think it's as in depth. Okay. But it's just a great way you can move chapters around. It's a great way to see your book, and then you can export it to Word.
Oh, okay.
And work on it there. Yeah.
Yeah. I use Atticus. I'm a big fan of that. And lately I've been writing in Plotter.
I like Plotter too. I use Plotter
Yeah.
to outline. Yeah,
Are you, so you're an outliner?
I am. I have to see it or else it
Okay.
will be a mess.
How about you, Jodi? You're churning out a lot of books. How are you doing it?
Well, I do write sort of full time. I write 5 days a week, and I try to diligently have boundaries around the other two to take some time off. But I write, my goal is about 2,000 words a day. And I'm the same. Sometimes it's more depending on how the flow is going. But I write in Scrivener, and then I transfer it. I do some cut and paste weird method because I know you can actually use Pro Writing Aid in Scrivener. I don't. I remove it from Scrivener and put it through Pro Writing Aid and then into a Word doc that I build my book from. That's how I do it. And then I use Vellum, of course, to put it all together in format. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now, do either of you guys dictate?
I do. I sometimes do. When I go out on a walk, I can dictate. I think my best dialogue comes from dictation because you're saying it. You know, I just hope none of my neighbors are really looking.
Hey, there's that crazy lady out there talking to herself. How about you, Kathleen?
You know, I've never tried dictation. I don't know. I keep thinking I should because I'm with you, Joe. Like I'll be out cleaning stalls and I'll think of something that I'm like, oh, if I had a recorder, I could just say it into it. But a lot of times I end up just writing down notes. And then, so yeah, I haven't tried it, but it's something I'm willing to give a try sometime.
So Jodi, you're an outlier. You outline?
Hands down. I have a huge outline. I take a week to 10 days to outline a book.
Wow.
Really try to get as much detail in the outline as I can. I do not know how, and I know there are people out there who can do a suspense thriller without, or a mystery without outlining. I don't know how. Because you have to build so many things into it. There's, with the, the red herrings and the, just the whole hiding the clues. I couldn't personally do it without outlining. So I love the outline.
I'm right there with you.
Okay. All right. We've got a Facebook question. All right. Catherine Kovacek asks, do you need to take care of the mental health of working canines? And if so, what techniques do you use?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, you need to make sure your dog isn't stressed because you do put them into high stress situations.
Right.
By that, what I mean, at least for us, police dogs, I'm sure, have even higher stress situations. But when you're in a middle school and there's a bunch of kids in a passing period, you need to make sure your dog's doing okay. So I think it's reading the animal. And we also do a lot of tests with our dogs, just knowing what kind of situation they're going to be heading into to make sure they can handle it. And I'm sure police officers do too for their specific situations. Our dogs also, I'm laughing because yesterday they get regular massage and chiropractic.
Oh, wow.
So, nice.
I want to be a dog.
I know. The handlers don't get that, but the dogs do. So if you had seen them yesterday, they were very happy, mentally, very relaxed.
Okay.
So, but it is something you got to watch your dog for signs of stress and then figure out what's going on.
Do they ever get depressed, do you think? Like if they don't find something, what does that look like? And how do you kind of deal with that?
I always have a training aid with me. There's pseudo drugs for the narcotic sense. So I always have something with me. So if we're not finding something, I can go hide something for them.
Oh, so you
happier.
You give them a win.
Yeah, I give them a win. You always want them to be successful. And I heard a story from 9/11 where they had search and rescue dogs not finding anyone, and the firefighters finally started going and hiding for the dogs because they were getting so down about that. So yeah, it's important to have something for your dog to always feel like they have a win, and if something's going on with them where they seem mentally or physically stressed, then of course you pull them out of work and figure out what's going on.
Right.
Reward the effort, not just the
exactly.
Yeah, that makes total sense. All right. I think this would be a good place to finish up here. Jodi, we'll start with you. Where can people find more about your books and more about you?
You can find everything about me on my website, which is jodi-burnett.com. And all my social media, all my books are on there. My books are sold on Amazon and both regular ebooks, paperback, some hardback, and of course, Kindle Unlimited.
Are you Amazon exclusive?
Yes. Well, yes, with my ebooks, I am, not with paperback.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Kathleen?
Yeah, anyone can go to my website. It's just KathleenDonnelly.com. It has links to all my social media if you want to connect that way. And the book is being sold, ebook, audio, paperback, all through all the major retailers, or your local indie store can also order it. But Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, Apple Books, all that.
Okay.
You can find it just about anywhere.
Hey, you had mentioned libraries, Kathleen. I wanted to just state too that readers can go to the library and request your book, and the library will get it in for them. So libraries don't have to already carry it for a reader to be able to sample your reading.
Yeah, definitely. And it helps the author too if
Absolutely.
you have your book requested. So definitely, and they can request our audiobooks too I think it's on Libby.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Now, do either of you two do much with social media?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I pretended to look at TikTok for a while, but I just can't quite get into it. How about you,
Kathleen?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm with you, Jodi. I went as far as I have the TikTok downloaded on my phone, but I haven't made the plunge yet. But you keep hearing that that's a good one to go to. But I tend to probably Facebook the most out of all of them.
Okay, cool. And I know Jodi has a very robust newsletter. How many people do you have in your newsletter?
I have about 8,000 right now. It's
wow.
It's down because I just did kind of went through and
a purge.
Yeah, purged, cleaned off people that weren't really opening or interested anymore.
What's your secret? How did you get so many?
It's really the lead magnet. And so I have 3 free books that you can, and you can get those on my website. I guess I should have mentioned that.
Yeah.
I have one that goes along, 2 that go with my first series, because one of them is a cookbook, companion cookbook. And then an epilogue to the first series. Then there's a prologue to my FBI series. And I have exclusive, known only here on this podcast.
Ooh.
I have a sort of side, going along with. So it's a little novella that takes place halfway through my 10-star K-9 series that I'm writing right now. So that'll be coming out this fall, and that'll be free as well. And I think people sign up to, to kind of read your free book, get a taste for you, and then they, in the process, join your newsletter.
Yeah.
And then just being consistently writing. I put out a newsletter once a week on Thursday mornings, and it's consistent. And, you just connecting with readers on Facebook and really being available to them, I think makes a big difference. I answer all my emails and just trying to be available to them. It's been a lot of fun. I really like the feedback, so it works for me.
How about you, Kathleen?
Yeah, I have an author newsletter that goes out the 20th of every month.
Okay.
And I just started it, I think it was like in March. If I could give advice, it would be start your newsletter sooner.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Not a few months before your book comes out.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but I've really enjoyed it, and I'm slowly building the list. And I try to do, I call them working tales of just stories from working the dogs and trying to get readers. Yeah. Just sharing.
Really great.
Yeah, I think this month I got a reader to enter. If someone sends a question that inspires a working tale, I send them a signed copy of my book. And
cool.
So this month's option or story is going to be about did you have flunkouts with drug dogs? So I'll leave it hanging there.
Okay, cliffhanger. I like it.
Yes.
Do you post that on Facebook, Kathleen, or how do you?
I have been posting it on Facebook. I've played with Facebook, Twitter, and even Instagram a little bit, just to let people know I have a newsletter.
Good.
I think the lead magnet you were talking about is really important. That's something I would like to develop a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So what's in the future for both you guys? Jodi, you start.
Oh, well, I have my next book in the same series coming. I'm working on that. I'm outlining it, in fact, this week. And that'll be the first part of next year. So that's coming up. And I have all my audio books are coming out. I'm halfway through the 10-star series in audio, And I have 2 more coming out this fall.
Great. How about you, Kathleen?
Yeah, so I am in the middle of the edits for book 2, Hunting the Truth. And then I'll start the next manuscript for Killer Secrets, book 3. That's due to my editor. The first round is due to my editor April 1st. So I'm excited about that. And that'll come out spring of 24. And I should mention that if anyone's curious about Chasing Justice, it's on sale this month. My publisher put it on sale, the ebook on sale for North America. And I have I have a standalone idea. I have another series idea. I'm going to just kind of start playing with them and maybe writing up some ideas and throwing it out to my agent and see what she says. So
see what happens. Okay. Yeah. Well, very good. I think this is a perfect spot to end. Thank you both so much for being on the show today. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Patrick. This is always fun.
Yeah, this has been so much fun. Thank you.